So welcome to Dharma for Doctors, Spiritual Care for Caregivers. I am your host, Chaplain Greg Holden. And for those who don't know, I am a retired board certified chaplain who worked in a hospice, and I worked with the palliative care service in a hospital. One of the reasons I started this channel was to highlight the countless individuals, a few of whom I met personally, who have taken it on themselves to care for other people. And sometimes this is part of a job, but just as often, these are family members caring for mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and they selflessly give their time and energy without previous instruction and often without a lot of support. But they find their way along and they do a marvelous service and from the heart. So today I'm honored to speak to one of those family caregivers. She is Maureen McFadden. Maureen is a Philadelphia native who has called Southern California her home for more than 35 years. Maureen is a press agent and public relations professional representing Santa Barbara, California's cultural community. Having grown up in a multi-generational home, the tradition was carried on when she and her son Eli moved in together with her mom, as mom was experiencing broken bones and surgery and eventually dementia. She was her mother Evangeline's primary caregiver for the last 8 years of her life. So Maureen, welcome, and thank you so much for spending time with us today.
You're welcome, Greg. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to represent all of the caregivers.
I appreciate it. Why don't we start by having you explain how you got into the role of caregiving? A lot of people,
Sure.
For a lot of people, it's sudden. There's no warning. Other people, it's gradual. How was it for you?
It was gradual, but it was also important. The change that I had to make, it was a quick decision that I had to make, although my mother and I had always been friends. So I never had any doubt about taking care of her. If that was going to come up, I'd be there for her. She was always there for me. So she broke her hip when she was 84. And the doctor said, there's no living alone for you anymore, Evangeline. And she had been a social worker in her professional life. And she had said to me, Maureen, don't ever put me in one of those institutions, because that's where a lot of her clients were in the big institutions. So I promised her I would keep good care of her. I tried to keep her home as long as I could. After the first break of the hip, 2 years later, she broke the other hip because she had surgery on her eye to replace her cornea, which didn't work, but she was off balance and she fell. That really started the cascading effect of going from someone who knew who she was, where she was, to not being quite clear about any of that. I experienced, after the 2 operations back to back, the eye surgery and then the hip surgery. Hip surgery didn't take, Greg. So 8 weeks later, they had to operate again. There was a real shift in her at that point. And she came home after being in the assisted facility. And it was difficult. But I did reach out for help. I did ask for help. I couldn't do it on my own. And my son was a teenager at the time, was 17, 18, 19, when he was helping me take care of her. Yeah, he would keep an eye on her during the day. So she wouldn't do anything that could hurt her.
Really?
And I give him an awful lot of credit.
Then you were in that sandwich generation where many
Yeah.
of us
The
have been
Oreo.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
caring for the young ones and you're caring for your parents also at the same
Yeah.
time. And often falls and surgeries. It just takes so much out of a person. I've seen that my family where just
Yeah.
one surgery after another, and you just see that they come out of it, but they're not at the same level. They're at a lower level there, and then it
Yeah.
progresses from there.
The motivation to get better was not there for her.
Mm.
But, I would not, in retrospect, have changed a minute of the time that I spent with her.
So
I think
what's
my grandmother got me ready for it.
Oh, yeah, you were saying your grandmother in Ireland was she a midwife?
Her mother was a midwife, and
Okay.
my grandma would accompany her when she would go to people's houses, whether it was for a birth or an illness of some sort. She would tell me about living in Ireland, and she said, what a blessing it was to be able to help these souls off earth.
Off this
It's
earth. Yes.
it still gets me. Um,
It's so
she
poetic.
she yeah, she remarked on 17 souls. I'll never forget that number that she helped move from one plane to the other.
Mm.
And I guess she kind of taught me that it wasn't anything to be afraid of. It was just part of life.
Mm.
As much as it's an ending of life, it's a big part of life. So
Mm-hmm.
I thank her for that. You
You
know,
did have
but
a inspirational spirit who must have been watching over you as you were caring for mom. You had your grandmother probably watching
yeah,
you. What are the special challenges working with someone who has dementia? It's not something I've talked about too much. It's not in my experience so much.
I think the hardest thing was uh, not recognizing what was going on. So probably for the first 6 months of her descent into this dementia, I was in denial. I
Mm.
mean, she would say to me quite calmly, "Oh, Maureen, I've had such a lovely time visiting you, but I think it's time for me to go home now." And I'd say, "But this is your home. This is where you live." And I'd explain to her, "You moved here. This is what you bought. This is it. Kathy's here." She just wasn't aware. And and I would argue with her. I would argue with her because I didn't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I reached out to hospice and talked with a couple people that they said or the doctor, when we took her, it was the doctor that gave her an evaluation. And when he asked her to draw the face of a clock, she drew the circle over here and she drew the numbers over here.
Oh.
So they weren't together. They were two separate things. Blew my mind. The doctor said, "Oh, that was a clear indication of her dementia." So he also told me that when they asked to go home, it's not home, it's where they felt the most safe.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's when they were children with their parents and they didn't have any other worries in the world except that.
Mm.
So after I learned that, I started to think about my theater training because I started out wanting to be an actress. I had dance background.
Oh.
And so in theater, when you learn to act, it's very important to be in the moment on stage with your character actors because otherwise the audience won't believe you. So be in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she was, I realized. Number two, there's an improvisational rule: never say no. It gets them so angry. And it's an affront. You can't tell me I can't do something. And so in the improv, if you say no, it stops the improv. So
Mm.
you say yes, but. And so that's what I took from that. The other was it's a script because she kept asking me over and over and over again, the same things. And I said, okay, we're going to have to pull out a little improvisation here. So when she would ask me, I think it's time for me to go home, I would say, yes, but Mom, I have to make arrangements for the airplane. I have to make sure somebody meets you at the airport. We probably have to pack, do a laundry. We have a couple things that we need to do before you can get going. So we'll get it going, okay? It just dissipated everything. It was beautiful.
That's great.
And I told her that every day, Greg.
Yeah.
Almost every day.
Yeah.
It was, it got to the point, I mean, I joked with people, I could tell her the same joke every day and she laughed. So my material could be limited, but
one good joke was enough.
Exactly. She was a bundle to handle. And so I asked hospice to come because I wanted to be the daughter that would love her. And I couldn't love her if I was cleaning up after her, wiping her ass and doing that other stuff because well, I'm not a nurse and I don't play one on TV. So it was not my style. So I reached out to hospice and said, I need help. Mm-hmm. So I got them to come in Monday through Friday in the morning for 3 hours. And they got her out of bed. They got her dressed, made her breakfast. If they needed to take a shower, they took a shower with it was a blessing. Yeah. So I encourage people when they're in that position of being stretched to the max to reach out to hospice. Visiting Nurse and Hospice in Santa Barbara gave me a grant. They have grants for people like me that are on a lower income level. And it was a real blessing to have it because it did allow me to be the loving daughter.
That's amazing. I'm glad you said that. I have not heard about grants. And I will look into that. I wonder if that is more widespread than just the Santa Barbara area.
Oh, I'm sure. I can almost promise you it is. And I would say more than likely because, a lot of people in their last days, the people that they say send money to always includes hospice because of the incredible care and love that's given at the end of the life. Yeah. And I do believe that they get some very, very good donations that allows them to really expand their services. I don't know the inner workings, but that's what I figured was probably how they were able to manage that. The other thing that visiting nurses have here is something called a loan closet. Mm-hmm. The loan closet is for people who, like my mom, unexpectedly she falls. She needs a walker. She needs a shower seat. She needs a bar to get up out of bed. I mean, these are expensive items. Mm-hmm. Well, people from here donate when their loved ones pass away. They donate a lot of those things to the loan closet. So they have wheelchairs. They have just about everything. So I got all of the supplies that I needed from my mom, the big things, from there.
Oh, that's great. And I know some senior citizen centers provide that equipment also. But I believe hospice is always evaluating and they will provide what you need based on their evaluation. Before I forget, what is the time period we're talking about when you were caregiving for?
For my mom? My mom's rapid decline began in 2004 with the first fall.
Okay.
She was pruning the peach tree in the backyard and she missed the last step on the ladder.
Oh.
She didn't ask for help. So anyway, so from 2004 until she passed away in 2011, mm-hmm. I was her caregiver. I became I called myself her development director because I was trying. Yes, I did. I was trying to find a suitable place for her. She didn't want an institution. So I found a 10-bed assisted living facility that was for memory care. And it just so happened the gentleman and his wife who ran the place were people that I had known through another group that worked with disabled people. So I was very, very blessed to have that. And because I was with hospice at this point, and I was getting counseling from the woman there, she got me ready for the time when mom would be evaluated for an assisted living place, because the beds are only available when someone leaves us. Yeah. So it's a quick thing. It's like a 3-day turnaround. And so I found this nonprofit, and the man who created it, his wife had dementia. So he witnessed a lot of families with dementia in the family, and they couldn't afford the care. It was $5,000 a month for my mom's care where she was living. Okay. And there was no way we had $5,000 a month. That would have meant sell the house, figure out what's next. That would be it. And we couldn't do that. So I found this charity. And what they did was they would take the money that mom would get from her pension and from Social Security, totaled about $1,500. Mm-hmm. They took $1,350 of that money, left me with $150 for expenses for mom in the month. They paid the balance to $5,000.
Wow.
For 2 years. And it was a grant. It was another grant that I found. So it took me a while, but I think it was the fellow who ran the house, Steve. It was called Gracious Living Homes of Santa Barbara. They're not in business anymore, but it was Steve who told me about them. And you just got to keep asking. You just got to keep asking. Hospice didn't have this information. And so, but what hospice did do was they got me ready. So I had all the papers ready. I was ready to just there's a place for mom to move. Let's go. Well, as it turns out, she was evaluated on a Thursday. This woman might have spent 5 minutes with her, Greg. And she was very pleasant. And she came over to me and she said, yeah, your mom's ready. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I got the grant. Steve had a bed open. And that particular weekend, I had a big event that I had to take care of. Oh. So I asked Steve if he could keep my mom until Tuesday. And then I would move her from there, or I would move her in on Tuesday because of this thing. And then the other thing is, of course, at the very, very end of her life, about 6 months before she passed away, she had gone into the hospital 3 times in the last year that she was alive. 2 of the 3 times was because she was dehydrated. Oh. And that's what her generation didn't drink water. They drank coffee, they drank tea, they drank everything but. So I asked them to put ice in everything, so that would help. But needless to say, she dehydrated again. And the doctor said, well, he said, we give her probably about 6 months. I said, really? Okay. Yeah, you can put her into, there's a home here called Sarah House, which is for end-of-life care. These people have wings. Oh my God, they have wings on their cheese. Such a great house, such a great feeling. It was all positive and loving. And again, it was a small house. And there was a next door neighbor who had a cat. My mom was an animal person. That cat found my mom. Oh, made her very happy. Huh. I know. He was a big boy too. When he laid down on her, he covered her from her chin down to her thighs. But, you
Occasionally, you
know, it
do come
was,
across such places, these small houses where there's just a few people and they get very personal care, and that's very
yeah,
special.
yeah,
If
yeah,
if that's right for you and your mom, that's just great that you found it. So
yeah.
you've
Well, I
conveyed
felt
a.
like I,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. I felt like I had made her a promise when I was younger. You know, when you make a promise to your mother, when you just don't break it. You know, I don't.
So you've conveyed a lot of really good information, Maureen, and I want to recap a little bit. You mentioned being in the
Okay.
moment, being in the
Yes.
present,
Yeah.
and redirecting as far as which is almost like a bit of part of acting and following a script. But when
True.
a person with dementia is fixated on something, negotiate and redirect them,
Yeah.
and it turns
Yeah.
out okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
repetition is natural. How
Yeah.
about music? I think did that help you at all?
Oh, let's
I thought
talk
it would.
about music. It's a beautiful thing. I tell you what, I would pick her up, take her out in the car. She loved to go for a drive. And I would put music on. And I put on Frank Sinatra's The Reprise Years, her music, her era. Well, Night and Day comes on. She sings the intro word by word. She sings the whole song. She has every word.
Wow.
I'm going, oh my God, this is insane. Okay. So I looked at her after it was finished and I said, I really like that song. Would you like to hear it again? You can do that. And I went, oh, it's a magic radio. Watch this. And I pushed the button and it played it over again. She sang it again, word for word.
Repetition. Yes.
At the end, I said, so mom, that's so cool that you know that song so well. And she said, well, it was your father's and mine favorite song, and he used to sing it in my ear when we would dance. Okay. By the time I by the time I came around, my father was a alcoholic and died of it. So there really wasn't a whole lot of pleasure in the house. There wasn't a soft and warm. It wasn't. This was a soft and warm feeling, and I had never heard it. God, it was such a blessing. She loved Broadway tunes, so it's the things that they love that bring them back to what they remember. And as they disappear into the dementia, the fog of their old age, their youth comes into play in so many ways, and that's what they remember.
Mhm.
I read children's books to her that she read when she was a child. Tales of Peter Rabbit was one of her favorites. Books, music, they're so important.
Yeah, I think
The
it's all
arts.
part of talking about the old days, the happy times of the past, which is always a good approach.
I just would encourage any caregiver, a family caregiver especially, um, get the old photo albums out. I'm sorry I didn't do that with my mom. I think that would have been another trip down memory lane for her that she would have enjoyed. It's something that I'd love to pass on as a do it,
Well, it sounds like
just do it.
you also got a lot of blessings, as you said. So
Oh gosh, yeah,
I applaud
yeah,
those. I applaud that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what did you do for self-care? Because you were doing this for like several years. How did you take care of yourself?
Yes, I found Santa Barbara Audubon. There's Audubon chapters all across the country, all across the world, and they had a couple of volunteering options, and one was to walk on the beach at a coal oil point reserve, which is where the snowy plovers have reclaimed since 2001. They've reclaimed that beach. They're nesting on it. And so they needed docents out there on the beach telling other beachgoers where they were, what they were looking at, why it was so special. And it got me out of myself. It allowed me to actually be there for the birds. I was there for the birds. I was there for myself.
The birds were there for you.
The birds were there for me. Yes, they were. And boy, they're the cutest darn little birds. I used to, when the little ones would hatch, they're, maybe, I don't know, maybe like from thumb to, they're tiny, but their legs are the same size as an adult plover. They come out with gangly legs, and they're this little like cotton ball, puff ball. So I called those my Las Vegas birds because they were all feathers and legs. And so I would talk to people on the beach like this, and I love to have fun when I'm talking to people, and they would enjoy it. And it really got to be a wonderful opportunity. I saw changes on the beach. Nature is so restorative.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I've always known that because I've always liked to go out in nature, and I love animals. And so that was how I did my self-care. And after my mom passed away, my back got worse. And so I couldn't scramble down to the beach anymore. And I started to volunteer with another program that Audubon has, and it's called Eyes in the Sky. And I started with them back in 2011, and I'm still with them. And I handle an injured bird of prey once a week. And I got to tell you, going to the aviary, cleaning it out, getting the little Western screech owl out, taking her weight, making sure she's the right weight. Then I take her out, and she's blind because of a virus that they can catch in the wild. And she is just the sweetest little bird in the world. I have to send a picture of me with her so you have that.
Oh,
and
yes, absolutely. I would love it.
Oh my God, I know. She's, there's something about, and again, I have to be present with this bird. I can't look at my phone. I don't want to look at my phone. I want to look at the bird. Yeah. Because how often do you have a chance to have a bird this far away from your face that you can look at it and see all of the different feathers and the talons that they've got. They've got a barn owl that I take out occasionally, and a kestrel, an American kestrel, which is the smallest falcon. And so I'm in heaven. I really am. I feel like it's like I'm good. Just leave me with the birds. My mother always said, Maureen, you're for the birds. She knew.
Well, you have discovered the joy of caregiving, and it continues to benefit your life and bless your life. How about that?
Thank you.
I'm so glad.
It does.
That's about all. I think you've passed along a lot of good information. Anything else you want to tell caregivers? Any other advice or tips?
Well, no, I want to say thank you for doing it. And don't be afraid to ask for help, even if it's outside of your family, your friends. Unfortunately, as our parents get old, their friends pass away. So their peer group isn't there for them anymore. And that was something my grandmother said to me all the time when I was younger. Maureen, it's awful when you get old. You lose all your friends. I didn't know about that till now. So just love them, because like I said, I don't regret 1 second of the time I spent with her. She did so much for me. She did so much for me. It was great to be able to give back.
Sounds like everything you gave out, you got right back. That's beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, I didn't expect to, but I did,
Well, I sure appreciate talking to you, Maureen, and thank you for passing this along. And everybody out there, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, and I wish you peace.